Thank you for joining me. This is Accessible Document Training by David Sanford. Making documents accessible allows for individuals who use assistive technology to comb through documents utilizing document properties to maneuver from one part of the document to another to hear descriptions from images, overall helping the user to understand all the information within the document. What is accessibility? Accessibility means that individuals with a disability are able to equally and engage in information and access it with ease. So let's look at disabilities. Disability just is anyone who has a physical or mental impairment that limits the quality of life. So here are some accessible laws that govern us here in the United States, but let's talk about some that adjust in the schoolhouse. Section 504 just covers anti-discrimination for equal rights for all students with disabilities. Then we get into more detail when we go into our ADA because this covers any organization that receives funding saying that everything has to be equal access, classrooms, the whole shabam has to be set up for individuals with disabilities if we receive fundings. So the basic structure is a big problem that we run into in the beginning that a lot of individuals create documents that are not accessible. They don't have selectable editable text. They can't be OCR and all of this happens in the original document. So let's jump into a Word document so we can look at the basic structure before a PDF is created so we can see if we can alleviate some of that. So a quick way, here's a blank document that you can download from our website. So let's go into our accessibility checker and let's look at some of the issues. So here's our accessibility checker, and you're going to see that when it opens up, it gives us some warnings and it gives us some tips. Tips are just things to improve the documents. Warnings are definitely things that are going to affect us. The first warning that we see that this document says is headers. So let's look at modifying our headers so we can have the headers match the text and font style that we've chosen for our document. So you see in here, we just right click on header modify and we can adjust the font size, so on and so forth. So all our heading ones will be the same. We go through and we can control select all of our headings at once so we can ensure that all of this information is selected so that we can quickly change it to heading 1, and you see that that warning disappeared. Great thing about adding headings to a document is that it sets up the OCR, the assistive technology, so that everything can be accessed, navigated easily. So let's look at our navigation pane and see what we have. Now we see that we've created an outline, that our document is searchable, that students can quickly jump to the area of the information that pertains to what they're looking for. This is great for someone who's using assistive technology or has a visual impairments. So let's look at what it says. We have some repeat characters. Repeat characters simply mean that when a computer reads this information, it may say things such as blank, 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 so on and so forth. So we want to remove all of that so that the student can have a smooth reading experience. So we deleted those extra spaces simply. And now we see that removed. So now we're down to tips. It says that we have a problem with our table. So let's go in. I see that we're missing a W here. I'm going to add that in and we're going to click the table. It highlights where the issue is, gives us some information on fixing that here. And if we select this little area in our upper right hand corner of our square, it pulls up our design tab. Let's reformat that table so it has a better structure, and we see that a lot of errors appeared on our screen. Let's address those so we can get this document made accessible. So one of the things that we're missing is alt tag. So let's right click on the table. Let's go to table properties and open our alt tag here so that when this table is read, the OCR will see it and read the title of the table, which we can just put, let me say like assignment weeks. So when a student gets here, it'll say table assignment weeks, and in the description, it will say table assignment weeks, weeks 1 through 4. So the student will understand, and then the table will be searchable. So we also want to make sure that if this table is broken between pages, that the header information repeats so that the flow can be consistent for a student using assistive technology. We've done that, and now we've seen that it has passed the accessibility checker. All we need to do is save that document, and we should be good to go. I realized that visually inspecting our document is key. I see that we have a hyperlink that wasn't active, so the checker didn't recognize it. But let's go ahead and fix this hyperlink here. We always want all our hyperlinks to display as text, not web addresses, because web addresses can be extremely long and confusing if it reads HHP, so on and so forth. This web link goes to disability services. Let's title it as so that the information will be read when our assistive technology comes through it. We see that it says disability services now. So visually inspecting our document, we should be good to go. So now let's open the same document that hasn't been corrected in Adobe Acrobat. So here we have the same document, and I'm going to recommend that we use a couple of tools to always check our documents in Adobe. The way that we can add these tools is we can go to more tools, or we can just click on the toolbar. We're going to add matter of fact, hovering over a tool lets you get an explanation of the tools, but the tools we're going to add are, and if a tool says open, that means that the tool is already in the toolbar. We're going to add our accessibility checker. Then we can type words also, so we can search a tool if we're not sure where it is. And we're going to add our action wizard. These are two things that are very important to making sure PDFs are accessible. So let's start with our accessibility checker, which just checks the accessibility of our document as kind of manually, but it gives us assistance. Accessibility reports allows us to generate a report, but we're going to run a full check. The full check opens this tab here, and I leave everything selected because I want to ensure that all the document is going to be checked and we're not going to skip over anything. Once we run our check, we click start checking, and we will see on our left panel here that we have some issues that arrive. So let's see 3 issues with our document. Let's pull this out so we can see what those documents are, and we see we have some things here. Blue means that the error needs to be manually checked, that the software didn't check it. Red means that it is an error that has failed. So if we right click on our fix, we can go in and we can give this document a title. That's what it's saying. It auto populated because I've been working on this document before yours. Just type in the title. I'm just going to type film 30, click OK. Now that document has a title and it should pass. It's still saying that we have one more problem here. The contrast of this document should be checked, but it's fine. It's a black and white document. We can manually pass that. As you see, just click pass and it will manually pass it. But we do have an image with our figures, our alt text. It says it's failed. Let's click fix in this area to see what the problem is. It's going to identify the area that we have a problem with. We can simply title this area here, click save, and then it will alt text that image for us and give us a pass. Document looks pretty good, but we still have this blue information up at the top, says it needs the reading order to be checked. So let's just glance over our reading order. Let me slide this over here. Checking the reading order allows us to see which order the document will be read for anyone using assistive technology. The first thing that I've noticed is that our camera is marked as the 12th thing to be read, and we actually don't need this read. It's not information that is pertinent to the subject, so we can go ahead and mark this as a background or an artifact that will just be skipped over by the computer. So click that here. The next thing I'm noticing is that we have some, I guess, blank metadata that was brought over when this document was created. So if we right click on the number 1, we can get this information out of here, right click, and we can delete this area because there's nothing in that selected area that needs to be read. So let's delete the selected item structure, and we'll see that it rearranges the reading order of the document. And now we can just simply scroll down to ensure that all the information will be read in the proper order. This is really great for documents that have columns or diagrams and graphs in the middle. Here we notice that 579 are areas that don't have fields that don't have any information. So if we delete those, it just makes for a more fluent read for the user of any assistive technologies. You see, when we delete the items, it just enlarges that text box, which means that information is searchable and selectable, scannable, so on and so forth. So, just scrolling through the document, we can see that the other large text boxes are there. Our hyperlink is actually correct in the information, so on and so forth. And this will be read in the correct order. It is grouped together in a logical way. So from there, we can close that. So the next thing that we would want to look at is, you see how this information is all selectable. That means it's searchable. That means it's editable. If we click edit, all the text goes into text boxes, similar to how the logic reading order was. So we know that this document can be scanned, it can be edited. It's so far looking good for an accessible document. Now let's take a look at the other tool that I was going discussing earlier, and this is our action tool. We're going to make this document accessible by clicking make accessible, and then I really like this tool because it fluently runs through all the information we need. This is it's going to OCR. You heard me talk about OCR, but it's optical character recognition. So let's start this here, and we'll see that the name and the title was already in the document, so we're good to go. The next step is that it wants us to recognize the text and how we're going to have the image as searchable. I mean, the document is searchable. Now it's OCRing, ensuring that nothing in the document needs to be made accessible. You see it pulled up that there are no fields in this. Now we're going to select the reading language, which is important because English leaves left to right, top to bottom, so on and so forth. Now did catch that the image was missing the alt text. So for this document, we'll add in the alt text, click save and close. Now that document, I mean that image is good in the document. Then it brings up our accessibility checker, which it will run through the document again. See, most of the things here are fixed, but we do have one problems. Different steps create different problems. So let's see, it says that we're missing a heading. It says that the appropriate heading, let's click. It says that the document needs at least a heading. So let's go into our reading order, and let's see what we have here. Here's where we can correct the heading and the reading order. We'll notice that the figure is selected. We don't need that. And we notice that area 1, which it says where our reading order, we need to change that to a heading 1 so that our document can pass. So let's look here. Now let's see. Let's run our accessibility check. Let's run full check. We change that to a heading 1. Now we see our document is made accessible. All the areas like reading order, titles, headings, tables, alt text have passed, and this document now is ready to be handed out to staff or students. Thank you.